Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. You know, I remember when I started my minimalism journey and I just felt really overwhelmed. I just had so much stuff and I didn't know where to start or what the right way to approach minimalism was. I remember there was this day a couple apartments ago that I had decided to Marie Kondo my closet, and I took all my clothes and put it in the middle of the living room floor, and it was this huge heap, basically a mountain, and I was just overwhelmed, and I did the declutter, but I just wasn't where I wanted to be once I was done with that declutter. And I wasn't sure how to really embrace minimalism as a lifestyle and how to really push myself into a space where I felt good about the amount of stuff I had. And so I have to admit, I had a lot of trouble getting started with minimalism at first. And I think it's because I kind of did my approach a little bit out of order. But finally, after a bunch of trial and error, I found an approach that really worked well for me. So I thought today it might just be helpful for those of you who are maybe considering minimalism or feeling a little bit stuck at the beginning of minimalism to give 3 simple steps to move towards minimalism in a more successful way. Things that really worked well for me. And even if you're part of the way through your minimalism journey, maybe you'll gain some tidbits or ideas about how to reinvigorate your minimalism process. I'm still on this journey. I'm still in the process of decluttering and minimizing and trying to reduce my consumption of stuff. But I've seen some really big changes in my life. I've seen some changes in my lifestyle, how I think about life in general because of minimalism. So I will say, if you're somebody that's getting stuck at the beginning, don't worry, you can see some success after you figure out what works well for you. And hopefully this video may give you ideas about how to do that. So I think the first and perhaps the most important step to minimalism is to figure out the why. Find the reason that's going to motivate you towards pursuing minimalism. I have a whole video on this topic and finding the right kind of why. I'll link it here. But I think a key component to this is just figuring out what's really going to motivate you to get there. I think it's helpful to think of a motivation that might even be a little bit selfish, something that's really going to impact your life, not anybody else's. How will it affect your day-to-day life, your bigger picture values, what you really care about? For me, a lot of it stemmed from just wanting more time for things other than cleaning and taking care of stuff. I think for me, minimalism has just allowed me to pursue my interests more readily. I have more time and space in my life for doing things creatively that are fun or interesting to me, or spending longer hours working or getting ahead of schedule, turning things in early, getting things done. I have more time to spend with my family, with my husband, with friends, and just creating more time even for relaxation or being in the moment or sort of living more slowly, where I don't feel like everything has to be so fast-paced. I'm able to focus my energy, my emotions, just all the force of who I am on things that matter more to me because I've pursued minimalism, and I don't have to spend quite as much time worrying about my junk. I honestly feel like minimalism has allowed me to just mature a little bit more, in that I'm less focused on some of those superficial things in life. I'm not as worried about getting the next new cool thing because I'm focused on what's important in my life. And I'm able to feel like I don't need to constantly one-up other people or something. I'm just content with who I am and what I have. And I'm really focused on pursuing my relationships and really investing in things that matter to me, as opposed to just constantly online shopping and kind of wasting away time. I honestly think when I think back to those first few declutters I did, I hadn't really clarified the why. I hadn't figured out what about this will actually make my quality of life better. Because I think at first I even was more interested in the superficial reasons. I wanted a space that looked nicer for when I had friends over. I thought it was just a good thing to maybe have a bit less. I got the sense good vibes, minimalism is a good thing, you know, but I hadn't really thought about how will this actually impact my life day to day. And then also that next level, how will it impact my life in a bigger picture, values-based sense? How will it affect my interaction with my community? How will it affect my personal goals or dreams or desires? How will it affect my personal relationships? How will it affect my mood and how I feel day to day? How will it affect how I spend my time? How will it allow me to actually open up my life to things I never even thought about doing? And I also think that's the other thing about minimalism too, to realize that it might affect your life in ways you don't even think about now. For me, I think it's just allowed me to be even better at planning ahead, like planning ahead on trips or getting logistics done, just kind of like being more responsible in a way I didn't even realize when I was setting my goals. Another thing is even this YouTube channel. I didn't necessarily think I'd have time to make a YouTube channel where I make videos so regularly, and I never even thought about the possibility of making a YouTube channel. But somehow I just kind of decided to do it, and I have the time in my life to pursue this now, along with a full-time job and a different side hustle in addition to this. So I definitely think that just all that time I spent cleaning or sifting through stuff to find something has now been better spent, at least according to what I enjoy doing or what I want to spend my time doing. And I think part of this is also creating a culture of minimalism in your life. If you can cultivate your mindset and how you're approaching day to day, if you can be talking about it with loved ones or friends, if you can be thinking about it, if you can be writing things down and goal setting and that sort of thing, if you can be listening to more podcasts or even YouTube channels about minimalism to help motivate you and to get yourself in that mindset, I think it can also help increase that motivation and really give you that surge of energy that you might need in those declutters. Again, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I know why I want to do minimalism, I think even if you have a sense of it, go back, revisit it, re-clarify it, and also it can shift over time. So just make sure you always sort of have a finger on the pulse of what's driving you towards minimalism and how it's affecting your life, even if you're part of the way through the process. I think revisiting that why repeatedly really helps keep me going with the process. The second step to starting minimalism, and I think this is a key one, is to reduce the flow of stuff coming from the outside into your home. Reduce the collecting, reduce the shopping, reduce just the accumulating of stuff. I know it's easier said than done. I do have a video on this, so I will link it here. But I think it's really helpful to figure out why you're collecting, why you're purchasing, what is driving that desire to keep getting more stuff. Why is it that we can never feel content with what we have? Because I've noticed, at least for me, when I buy something new, often I'll feel good about it, I'll feel excited to use the new item, but then after a little bit of time, that excitement wears off. And where does it go? It goes on to a new urge to get something new. And so figuring out what is driving that desire to continue to accumulate things. Because once you have that self-awareness of what is driving you, then it's easier to think to yourself, I don't need to listen to the thoughts telling me to buy this item. I think for a lot of us, shopping is about just trying to fit in, trying to have our stuff portray something about us. And ultimately, it's about often connecting to other people. But I don't think that buying stuff will ever be as good at connecting us to people as just having a real conversation, as being genuine and really taking the time to listen to someone else. So I think that's one reason why a lot of us collect, but maybe it's something different for you, and figure out what it is. Why do you have this connection to belongings, and what is this stuff doing for you? And you know, through studying psychology, I have really learned that usually behaviors that we want to reduce or get rid of, there is some kind of function to it. There's a reason why we do it. We don't just do things for no reason. And so figuring out what it is that's driving you to collect can help reduce your urge to collect. And I think also allow you to catch yourself when you're kind of buying into that groove of buying things or collecting things or keeping things. So that's one approach to try to reduce that trickle of stuff from the outside in, but really try to pay attention to what actually works for you. How do you stop the stuff from the outside in? Because if you're doing a bunch of really difficult declutters, but you keep accumulating stuff, you're just going to be spinning your wheels. You aren't going to make the progress that you want to make. And so I think the really big key to this is to reduce the collecting. So now I want to take a really quick break to discuss the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community where you can take a bunch of different classes online. And I just think the class quality is really, really high, and they have classes on a bunch of different areas, artistic areas like painting, drawing, design, photography, web development. And then they also have a lot of like logistically useful classes like marketing, entrepreneurship, as well as lifestyle classes, which is a category I really enjoy. Things like cooking and productivity and just day-to-day skills that are useful. And I really enjoy the content of these classes because I feel like I often really take something that I then later apply to my life. But even just the classes themselves, I find just like relaxing and enjoyable. Like it's a way for me to unwind in a way where I feel like I'm also kind of being productive. So it's like a double positive for me. Most recently, I started taking a course called Style Your Space: Creative Tips and Techniques for Interior Design, made by Emily Henderson. And it really was helping me understand at a slightly deeper level, like why certain objects might work in certain places. What's also cool is that they're constantly launching new classes, so I feel like there's always more I can be getting out of Skillshare. There is a great opportunity. The first 1,000 people to click the link below in the description box will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So if it's something you think you might enjoy, just click the link and feel free to check it out. Now back to the main topic of this video, my third and perhaps newest piece of advice for getting started with minimalism is to start decluttering where it's going to make the most impact on your lifestyle. Figure out where do you spend the most time in your home, what area maybe bothers you the most, and just do a major declutter of that space. For a lot of people, I think this might be the living room where maybe you spend a lot of your time. For others, I think it might be a home office where you're working every day, but it actually adds to the stress. Making a space that previously felt stressful or previously felt mediocre, but now feels relaxing and calm, having that shift just in one space, but one that's impactful, will, I think, allow you to feel more motivated to continue to declutter. I really think that there's almost like an addictive element to decluttering once you get going. And while, of course, you don't want to take decluttering so far that you're having to rebuy things over and over again and end up consuming even more stuff, I think that that's pretty extreme and pretty rare to actually get to that point. So take advantage of those like appealing properties that decluttering has. I definitely think that as I declutter, I get increasingly motivated to declutter more and more spaces and more areas of my life, because I see the impact it has on my whole mood and how I approach life and how I think about things. Like it really has changed how I think, I swear. And so I think that if you can start in a space where you're gonna see those effects right away, it's just gonna help you be motivated to do more and more. I think for me, for example, I started with a lot of closet declutters, but I don't think that made as much of an impact on my day-to-day as going into my living room and just minimizing stuff in there, because that's where maybe I spend more of my actual time. And so I do think that finding a space where it's going to make you feel good, I think, is a great first step to get started with decluttering and to get the motivation to keep going with it. So those are my 3 basic tips for starting to pursue minimalism. Again, it's basically figure out the why, get that motivation going, reduce the flow of stuff from the outside in, and then start with a declutter of a space that's going to make a big impact on your life. If you want to see more content on simple living, minimalism, building an empowering mindset, then hit the subscribe button below and hit the like button if you ended up enjoying the video. Doing those things ends up supporting the channel, so if you're willing to do it, I'd appreciate it. And let me know in the comments if you have other good tips for that first few steps of what to do to get started to pursue minimalism. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.